Hello and welcome to London on what has turned into a lovely spring evening. We are perfectly placed here at the ceremonial heart of the capital on the eve of what will be a momentous occasion in this country's history, the coronation of King Charles III and the Queen Consort. The flags are out, the scene is set for a weekend of splendour and celebration. It's from Buckingham Palace tomorrow that King Charles and the Queen Consort will travel to Westminster Abbey in the Diamond Jubilee stagecoach, drawn by 6 Windsor grey horses. Tomorrow then, a significant day not just for their majesties, but for the nation and the Commonwealth, as we watch history in the making. The first coronation in 70 years, a new chapter, and the dawning of a new age of monarchy. And on Sunday, well, we will be at Windsor Castle for a huge celebration, the first ever coronation concert, a spectacular setting and a star-studded lineup. Stay with me for all the live coverage. We hope to bring you an unrivaled view of an unparalleled weekend of events. And for such a special and important weekend, you need special and important guests. The world-renowned naturalist and broadcaster Sir David Attenborough is here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It's lovely to have you. Tell me why tomorrow is important to you.
Well, 70 years ago, I was a young television producer, and television in this country was just beginning. There were very few sets. They were black and white, of course. Everything was live. But in this event, suddenly people did whatever they could to get near a set. And I think there were 2 million set owners there were, and it was only down in London that you could really see it. But in fact, when they did examination at the end of it all, they discovered that 20 million
Wow.
people had watched it, because there were 10 people per set.
Crowded around.
Joined around, because there were so few sets around and so few people who owned sets.
And this weekend we have, I think it is, so then there were 20 cameras at 5 locations. That was in 1953. This weekend, I've been told we've got 129 cameras at 20 locations throughout the whole weekend. Wow. So a remarkable period of change in 70 years. In terms of the King himself, you first met the King, so you were working at the BBC, you were in your mid-20s, and you met the King when he was, what, 9 years old for the first time?
Yes, I think he was. He came to the studios. And I'd just come back from New Guinea,
right,
and with a load of animals which were going to the London Zoo. But I had a pet cockatoo, a white cockatoo, and I was asked to bring it to the studios, which I did. And that's all very well, but...
and there you are. Look how young.
Princess Anne and Princess Charles.
Yes, Princess Anne.
And of course, the cockatiel, little cocky, is sort of sitting on his hand. But in fact, of course, they have a very powerful beak and a very powerful bite. And although I was very confident about Cocky, he could actually have removed Charles's little finger.
It went well, though. It didn't.
But all was well, and it was a very happy occasion, actually.
I know you take credit for very few things, so I know you're not going to take credit for interesting that young prince in the natural world, but it must have been interesting for you to watch his burgeoning interest throughout the decades and his championing of environmental causes, especially at a time when people were saying, what are you talking about, especially in the late 70s, early 80s.
He saw very clearly the relationship and the importance of the natural world, right from being a small child. And of course, when he became prominent and an adult, he took a strong line at a time when nature conservation was not regarded, well, it was regarded as being slightly specialist, you know.
Yes.
Oh, no, you know, it happens, but we're not really concerned. But he realized what it was about. And he was mocked, actually. I mean, because he said trees are so important. I feel like talking to trees.
Yes.
And people said, ha ha ha.
And the ridiculing headlines were, you know, the prince
right.
talks to trees. Yeah.
But in fact, of course, he was absolutely right. And the world has come to see the world as he saw it.
It's interesting at this moment of change then, you know, to be a campaigning prince was one thing, and to talk about the things he was passionate about. The constitutional parameters change when you are the monarch. Do you think he'll be able to say less about the environment, to be less active on that front?
Yes, I sincerely hope so, and believe he will, because the fact is that maybe 20, 30 years ago, it really was sort of oddball.
Yeah.
To a lot of people. But now everybody realizes that the future of humanity is dependent upon a healthy natural world. And the way ahead demands that leaders of the states should actually give their full backing. And I'm quite sure that as king, he will lead this country in a very important way.
I know that you are involved in some aspects in the Earthshot Prize, which is led by the now Prince of Wales. Do you get that sense within the family? And you have known the family for a long, long time, that the baton is being passed.
Very much so. I mean, of course, Prince Philip was very, very vigorous in ordering conservation, and I'm quite sure that King Charles will be the same. Quite sure.
You gave Prince George, little Prince George, when you met him. Now, I read this and I didn't quite believe it was true. In fact, I checked with my producer and I said, it said in the notes that Sir David gave little Prince George a 23-million-year-old shark's tooth.
A bit older than that, even. Yeah. But anyway, it was a fossil. It was a fossil shark's tooth.
Right.
And I had met the young prince, and so I gave him as a present this fossil shark's tooth, which I had collected on the island of Malta years and years earlier before. He was duly impressed. How old was it? It could be 150 million years ago, that sort of age. And he was very impressed, and because it's a very beautiful thing, an object. But somebody in some politician, I think, in Malta, saw the press coverage of this and said, this is one of the national treasures that have been thrown away. Well, actually, of course, fossil shark's teeth in Malta are abundant. I'd collected them dozens of times. Since then, of course, it had become illegal to collect fossils. And this politician said they have been giving away this national treasure to the young prince. But it wasn't the case, and people saw that it was absolute nonsense, and of course it was fine. But I believe that the young Prince George really treasures it.
Enraptured by it. Just briefly looking ahead to tomorrow, what are you looking forward to tomorrow? What are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, I suppose the whole panoply of the military, the parade, and of course the ceremony itself was deeply moving. And it was a royal occasion like this, which was the coronation of the Queen, which really set up television. Everybody had to see television. Then there were only 10 people sets.
Yes, and you were saying people crowded around the set. It's going to be a televisual spectacular.
Yes.
We hope you'll enjoy our coverage. We hope you'll enjoy the ceremony. It is a delight to have you here. And may I say happy birthday for Monday, because it's your birthday on Monday.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Well, for all the processions and the parties this weekend, the centrepiece is the coronation service at Westminster Abbey. The doors remain firmly shut this evening as the final preparations take place, but we do have a little bit of a sneak preview of the scene that will await His Majesty in the morning. We can share that with you now for the first time. Footage from inside the Abbey. In the middle of Westminster Abbey, in the space between the high altar and the choir, is an area referred to as the Coronation Theatre, and that gives you quite an indication of the sheer spectacle that will unfold here tomorrow. Facing the high altar is the 700-year-old coronation chair. This is where the King will be seated tomorrow at the point that he's anointed with holy oil. And after the King is crowned, he'll leave the coronation chair to sit on the throne. And at this moment, the sovereign is considered to have taken possession of the kingdom After homage has been paid to the King, the anointing and the crowning of the Queen Consort will take place. And afterwards, their Majesties will withdraw to the area known as St Edward's Chapel. That's just behind the high altar, and that is for really a moment of private contemplation. As the service comes to a close, the King will process through the Abbey as our newly crowned monarch. So the Abbey sits then in relative tranquility this evening, ready for its moment in the spotlight tomorrow morning. And seats inside that Abbey are surely the hottest ticket in town. Sophie Rayworth is at Westminster Abbey this evening with someone lucky enough to be going along to the service.
I am indeed. It is relatively quiet here right now, but thousands of people have been passing the Abbey all day, soaking up the atmosphere, taking photographs. The police have just started closing off the roads, and they're going to shut off the pavements pretty soon. The whole area is going to be sealed off. But this woman here is going to be coming back pretty soon. Matty Moravat is a lecturer at the University of Sunderland, and you are one of the very lucky few who has a ticket. How excited are you?
I'm very excited and grateful to have the opportunity to be here tomorrow to witness such a historic moment.
And you are here because you have a British Empire medal for all the work that you have done over about 15 years for a charity called Fight Back in Sunderland.
Yes, indeed. Fight Back is a user-led charity in Sunderland that provides a range of practical, social and educational services to the most disadvantaged and vulnerable members of society. We assist our clients with advocacy, mediation, form filling. We also have a coffee morning and befriending services to reduce social isolation. We have Food Bank, which provides over 100 food parcels each week.
And that's why you got your British Empire medal for all the work. You almost didn't get it though, did you?
Yeah. It's a funny story. I had a phone call from a cabinet office and they said, would you like to accept your medal? And I said, oh, what kind of medal? And then she said, yeah, you've been awarded the British Empire medal. I was really shocked, and then I screamed at the top of my voice like a little girl.
And you've met the King. He was Prince Charles.
Indeed,
then
yes.
last year.
Yes, I was lucky enough to meet him and talk to him last May at the garden party. It was really lovely to talk to him, and then he took an interest in why I've been invited, and then we talked about my charity. That shows how passionate he is about charity and communities.
Well, have a wonderful time tomorrow. You're one of about 2,200 people who are going to be going through into the Abbey tomorrow.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. What colour are you wearing?
Thank you very much. Yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah,
very good.
yes,
very fitting.
Yes.
Have a great time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I'm joined now by two people who know the King and Queen Consort well. Jude Kelly from Women of the World Foundation and Paddy Harbison, who was their former Communications Secretary. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking the time. You're both going tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
Very excited.
Are you, Paddy?
Yes. I didn't expect the invitation. When it arrived, I was just thrilled. I mean, I was lucky enough to work for the King and Queen for 10 years, but that was 10 years ago. So when it landed in the sort of through the letterbox, it was a real thrill, and I can't wait.
You know the amount of work that goes into something as extraordinary as a state occasion. You were one of the, well, I think it'd be fair to say actually, the mastermind behind what was a huge success for a royal occasion, the wedding of the now Prince and Princess of Wales back in 2011, the early summer of 2011. What does it take? How would you describe what it takes to plan and to carry off something that really takes people's breath away?
It takes a lot of planning, a huge amount of people. I remember the first meeting we had when we were organising the wedding of the now Prince and Princess of Wales, and there was 65 different organisations around the table, a huge table over the road in the palace. The coordination, collaboration, a lot of happiness too. I think you're particularly for an occasion like tomorrow, there's a lot of joy in it, which sort of drives you forward. But detail as well. I mean, I think this is something that we as a country do so well. Everyone was ready on the day. It went absolutely beautifully. And actually, rather like tomorrow, we had to always remember at the heart of that wedding were two people getting married.
Yes.
And tomorrow we have a very personal thing too, of a king and queen being crowned. And I think that is going to make it so special.
Very important part of it, yes. Jude, can I ask you, I mean, you have worked often with the Queen Consort. We're talking inevitably, of course, a lot about His Majesty. Mm-hmm. But for the Queen Consort, a huge day too. I mean, knowing her as you do, you can't tell us how she's feeling, I suppose, but what do you think her attitude will be?
Well, I think she will, first of all, be tremendously glad that she is there as an unrelentingly supporting person for her husband. I think that's one of the key things for her. I think she will also feel as if she is sort of going through a rites of passage, which she is, to become something which takes the monarchy into a new phase, and her leadership will be part of that. So I think she must be nervous. She wouldn't be human if she wasn't nervous. But I think that she is going to step into a more profound space. And I think she's been preparing for that for a long time. When I watch her on royal visits, when she reenacts, she's with the WOW Foundation, she's so committed to unearthing stories from the marginalised voices, from the people who don't get heard. She's said so often she wants to use her voice for the people who don't have a voice. And I think that coronation says to both of them, you have a greater voice than ever, and they will then use it well.
Do you feel, I mean, you've known her for a fair amount of time, you've been on a lot of overseas tours with her and lots of visits, you've seen her interact. Do you feel, it's interesting whenever I talk to her, when I watch interviews with people who know her, this sense in which they really want to promote the fact that, this is a down-to-earth person, people don't really know her, she has suffered bad press, years ago. Do you get the feeling now that the public are beginning to see the person that you know?
I think so. I mean, it's interesting looking at the pictures of the two of them, photographs all around the shops. I was just saying to Paddy actually in the green room that it's almost like a honeymoon moment for the two of them. I mean, they do love each other. It's very clear, and people want people to love each other. We need love.
Yes.
And so I think, yes, she's very down to earth, but she's also very emotional. She's very intuitive, she's sophisticated, she's very funny, and I think the public will now want to get to know her.
Paddy, for the King himself, it is, of course, to say it's a hard act to follow is to somewhat understate the case.
Yes.
There we had an unimpeachable monarch for 70 years whose status and general sort of goodwill from the people only seemed to grow as the decades went on. How difficult is it for the King to carve out his space and to say, this is who I am and this is how I'm going to do it?
I don't think it'll be as much of a challenge as some people think, and we've seen already. He's obviously been king for 6 months now. He brings his own touch to it, his own personality to it, slightly more informal than his mother, but still able to do all the sort of important constitutional roles exactly as required. He's the best prepared monarch we'll ever have. He knows his country, his people, his planet better than anyone who's ever fulfilled that role. So I think he's absolutely. I think we have the king we need at this stage, and the Queen, and I think I'm very excited.
And what do you? I noticed you sort of nodding in agreement there. This idea. I mean, I get the sense that there is a strong sort of partnership. They do a lot of things together. We see them very often together.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the. After they married, I was there when they married, and it was just to see them in public together. You've seen it many times. They share the same sense of humour. They're always sort of touching each other, always having little comments, and everywhere they go, people really pick up on that. And I think they're each other's rock, if that's not too much of a cliche. They rely on each other, but it's a great double act. They're absolutely fantastic.
I just was listening on the tube to the Mind the Gap message that they put out.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard it.
I haven't heard it yet.
He says, mind the gap, and then she says something like, and watch how you go. Yeah. And I just thought, well, first of all, that's a very good shared message, but also following on from Paddington Bear, I think it is important for people to know that royalty have a sense of humour.
Yeah.
And, that's a good way to have started, I think.
Yeah.
They have got a sense of humour, and we can have lots of pomp and ceremony, we can have lots of things that we're serious about, but the country is famous for jokes as well, so, that's good.
Very nice of you to come in and share your thoughts and your insider knowledge. We wish you a very happy day tomorrow. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks both very much indeed. Well, a Friday night in London is usually pretty lively, but I have to tell you this evening there really is a unique sense of anticipation, a sort of fizz in the air. A city that's so often been the stage to grand moments of ceremony seems to be girding its loins in preparation for a biggie, and events start early. Let me take you through the timetable for tomorrow. At 7:30 a.m. the doors to Westminster Abbey open, and not long after we expect the first guests to begin to arrive. Just after 9, the military streetliners, they do what they say on the tin, while they take their place on the ceremonial route to and from the palace. At 10:20, we'll see the King and Queen consort as they leave Buckingham Palace in the Diamond Jubilee State Coach, making what's known as the King's Procession towards the Abbey. At 11 o'clock, of course, it's the centrepiece of the day. The coronation service begins. At 1 p.m, the King and Queen, newly crowned, will leave the Abbey in the famous gold state coach, accompanied by a huge military display and carriages carrying other members of the royal family for the coronation procession. At around about 2:30, their Majesties are expected on the balcony of Buckingham Palace to greet the crowds and to watch a grand military flypast in honour of the King and Queen's special day. And it is worth letting you know that the coronation here on the BBC is our most accessible live event ever. It's on iPlayer in ultra high definition. You can watch with subtitles, and there's a signed version for the deaf and the hard of hearing. There's also the opportunity for full commentary for the blind and partially sighted, or for those of you who prefer no commentary at all, that is also an option. Just go to the iPlayer tomorrow and make your choice. You will hear the word history and historical a lot this weekend. There is good reason for that. The coronation of a monarch is not just rare, it has a ceremonial lineage stretching back more than 1,000 years. For anyone involved, that means being part of a very special tradition. We have spoken to 3 musicians whose roles in tomorrow's service at Westminster Abbey will truly be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
I think singing at the coronation is pretty much unlike anything I'll ever do. Nothing will ever really match up to this. This will be, you know, the moment of a lifetime. Traditionally, choirs at coronations have always been male. We're actually the first ever female choristers to be singing at any coronation. It's crazy. We're definitely making history.
I'm going to be singing as part of the service, a solo with the choir. I'm going to be doing my best to fill the Abbey with my voice. It's going to be a chance for me to add my own single personal voice to this overwhelming occasion. It's really exciting.
I've been asked to compose the Coronation March for King Charles III. Well, it's a great privilege and an honour, and I was rather shocked to receive the call from the palace. But the fact that King Charles had asked me to do it, I thought, well, if he thinks I can do it, then that's a help. It's something I never envisaged in my life would happen, coming from a very humble background, my father being a miner. So I hope King Charles III is happy.
My mother is from Jamaica. My father is English, but of Welsh stock, hence the name Williams. So there's a great mix of Caribbean and Celtic heritage in there. When I told them I've been invited to sing at the coronation, and my mother went, "Crikey."
I sent it to my family Snapchat group chat. I was like, guess who's singing at the coronation? My nanny immediately sent in like 10 emojis. Absolute crazy, like party signs.
When it was announced, officially announced by the palace, my sister texted me within 3 minutes. She goes, "I'm greeting," which means she's crying. It's a very Scottish one. I'm greeting. Everybody in my immediate family went berserk about it. I'm so proud to be part of it and proud for them.
So I'm looking forward to being a part of the service. I'm hoping that there will be a real sense of joy when we finish tomorrow.
I'm the luckiest person on earth to be asked to write the Coronation March. I can't wait.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to sing on this stage. It's the lottery ticket.
Well, the King is a great music lover, of course, from Hubert Parry to the 3 Degrees. He's a monarch of eclectic tastes. One of the performances he can enjoy this Sunday will be from the Coronation Choir, and Grant Davis and Sophia Bashir are going to tell us more about this incredibly interesting project. Tell me first of all, Grant, how you got involved. So this is the Sing for the King.
Yeah, I'm a London taxi driver for 35 years. And we've got a collective of cab drivers who have come together to sing for the King at Windsor on Sunday with everyone else. But it's just great for the cab trade. I cannot begin to tell you the love and respect the cab trade have for the royal family. It was only a few months ago on the passing of Her Majesty the Queen that instantly there was like 500 taxis down the Mall. We just made our way to the Mall, turned our engines off to show our respect and love for the royal family. And Sunday's just going to carry on continuing with the love.
It runs deep.
Does
Sophia,
run deep.
tell me about your choir then. How did it start? Give me an idea of what it's like.
We are 6 in our choir. We are South Asian women. I think we are Yorkshire's only South Asian women's choir.
Okay.
We came together about a year ago, and we've really only been singing together properly, I would say, for the last 6 months or so. So we're very new.
And what was the point in doing it? Why did you want to start it?
It was really a way of us kind of delving into our South Asian heritage through song. We all love to sing, and generally speaking, South Asian women don't form choirs and do this kind of thing, I suppose.
Okay.
So we've kind of got to a point in our lives where we think, you know what, throw caution to the wind and just do what we love and have fun.
Okay. And so where do you perform? What sort of things do you take part in? Does it tend to be within the British South Asian community, or do you go out further?
Further, really. We've been doing quite a lot with various different organisations throughout West Yorkshire. We've been part of the Bradford Literature Festival as well last year. We just tend to sort of sing the songs that we sing, Punjabi folk songs, Bollywood songs, to anyone that wants to listen, really.
And so, Grant, how did your choir get chosen for? I mean, let's talk about prestige. It's the first time there's ever been a coronation concert. It's the first time that Windsor has ever been open to the public for a concert like this. It's a very, very big gig.
Massive gig.
How did you land it?
A lot of brown envelopes. No, I'm only joking.
Good. Yeah, because that would be a shock.
Yeah, it just sort of come together. There was talk about choirs and needed, and the group of taxi drivers in our choir, a nice varied range. There's guys and girls in it, and we started off with the audition. When we met together, and a few fell by the wayside. Fingers in your ears and stuff like that. But it was all right. And we've got down, I think there's 8 of us. And it's been so enjoyable. I can't believe how much I've enjoyed it. And the energy, and it's just fantastic.
I should say to you, we've just got a little clip here from this programme that's coming up after we're off air. Sophia, this is you receiving some fairly significant news. Let's take a little look.
Could I hear you sing that solo bit at the beginning? Because you've got quite a poppy little voice there.
So confused, we don't understand. Feels like this, now it won't end, but there's gonna be brighter days.
She's got an incredible pop voice, a confidence and a security in Sophia's singing that makes me think solo. Solo! Do you think you could do it?
On my own? Like just by myself with nobody else?
Yeah, well, the King would be there. Genuine question, do you think you could do it?
Yeah, I think I could do it. Yeah, you can. I could totally do it.
We shake on it?
Oh my God.
You got the solo. Congratulations. Yeah, I think this is right.
Wow.
Quite a poppy little voice. I think he was selling you short, frankly. You've got the most incredible voice.
That was the first time I actually sang that song.
You're kidding.
Yeah, it's not something that I've really heard very often. And that was the first time he'd kind of presented that song to us, and we were kind of practicing for the Coronation choir.
So you've got this solo. You're in front of not just the King and Queen and other members of the royal family. I'm not trying to make you nervous, incidentally. 20,000 members of the public who've all been into a ballot, and there are key workers there, NHS. This is an incredible setting. What's your state of mind right now? You seem as cool as a cucumber.
Show me the exit.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm trying not to think about the 20,000 people, let alone everybody that's going to be watching at home.
Yeah, don't think about that. You don't want to think about that.
Trying not to focus on any of that, otherwise I'll never make it on that stage.
Okay, and I guess probably, Grant, being surrounded, so you're with people you know very well, but being part of this much bigger choir as well sort of probably helps push you forward.
It's
Is
great.
that fair?
Yeah, it's almost like all the support and you're hearing the voices and it's like one big team, really. You know what I mean?
What is that sensation like when you all sing together?
Wow, it's a bit surreal actually, because when you just sing in your own group, 6 of you, you know, or 8 or whatever, but once you start adding on, and at the rehearsals when it was all of everyone, it does. Your hairs go up on the back of your neck, to be honest. It's going to be some event, I tell you.
I think it is. It's so nice to talk to you, and you don't need luck. I'm sure it's going to be sensational, but all the luck in the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you can watch Sing for the King, The Search for the Coronation Choir, straight after this programme here on BBC One. A significant element of the spectacle tomorrow will be the biggest military parade that our nation has seen in 70 years. Earlier today, JJ Chalmers met with some of the people and the horses who will be taking part.
I'm in one of the yards here at the barracks, and as you can see, is a real hive of activity. In fact, it gives you such a sense of how much effort goes into making all of this just look effortless. Oh, hello. Who's this?
This is Quasimodo, one of the biggest horses we've got in the cavalry.
How's he feeling about it?
Quasimodo, he's a really well-natured horse. You know, he doesn't spook easily. He's just a big, calm giant, I would say.
How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling really good. I'm really excited because it's probably the biggest thing I'll be involved in. Yeah. I've been in the troops about 7 months now. 7 months? Yeah, 7 months. And the coronation falls in that time? Exactly. That is quite wild, isn't it? Yeah, it's brilliant. Can't wait to see you and Quasimodo here out on parade. Thank you very much. We're looking out for you.
I'm responsible for the training of both the horses and the soldiers in the Blues and Roll Squadron. We need to get the horses used to sights and sounds of the route of the procession, so flags, crowds, all the sorts of things we think we could come up against along the processional route.
It's the volume, it's the size and scale of this.
Everything, JJ, yeah, everything. To be part of the King's Coronation itself is a great experience, but to have the opportunity to help and plan some of it's fantastic, once in a lifetime experience.
Sir, as the adjutant, you've got a lot to look after. Discipline, precision, this is on another level, isn't it?
Absolutely. The attention to detail that's going into the kit, the horses, is still very much at the forefront of what we're doing.
Most senior non-commissioned officer here, the buck stops with you on this one. How does that make you feel?
It's nearly overwhelming. 20 years I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. All of that is built up to this moment, and we want to give everything we can to set the King off on this new journey.
You're very busy, so I'll let you get on with it, but best of luck for the big day. Go well, all of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's going to be worth watching. Well, let's chat to 2 more people who know the King well and our guests at the Abbey tomorrow. Lord Charteris, the former Bishop of London, and Elizabeth Buchanan, a former private secretary to the King. Thank you both for coming to our magnificent studio outside the palace. Lord Charteris, if I can come to you first of all, you really have known, well, now our King, Prince Charles as he was, for a very, very long time. What about, is it 40 years?
I think 55.
Oh, good grief. All right, 55 years.
We were at college together.
Right.
But since then I've been a royal servant, really. So I was for 25 years the Dean of the Chapel Royal. And,
yes. At the centre of tomorrow then, I mean, obviously we saw the magnificence of the horses there and the military. We're going to see this superb parade. We're going to see lots of spectators already camping out. You know, it's all, there's a great amount that surrounds it. But at the very heart of tomorrow is a religious service with a king and his queen. And he is taking a very important oath. What is the nub of that? What is it about?
Well, I think it's, I was in the rehearsal yesterday, so it's very fresh in the mind. The king's being anointed, but not to rule, but to serve.
Right.
That's a really important theme that goes right the way through the service. And of course, to have a head of state who's saying, I'm here to serve, is very significant. But also, it's an ancient ceremony. There are some very ancient aspects of it, some extraordinary little details which I love. I mean, the Duke of Wellington, for instance, is wearing the robe that his ancestor, the first Duke, wore at the coronation in 1820.
Good grief.
It's seen a bit of wear since then. But as well as being ancient, it's very fresh. The last coronation in 1953 was an imperial coronation. This one is ancient ceremonies interpreted freshly for our contemporary world. And so that's a really fascinating aspect of the ceremony tomorrow.
And you've a lot of the time actually been almost alongside Prince Charles, as he then was, the king as he now is, in his spiritual development. He's not somebody who's afraid of that. I mean, I've seen him on, on camera and documentaries I've watched talking about daily prayer and meditation, and he meets that head on in terms of letting people understand that it is part of him. And in a world where most people do not pray and do not meditate, strikes me as quite a brave thing to do, to talk about that.
I think that's right, but I think he draws attention to things that are not quite so foreign to most of our lives. I mean, one of the things about the coronation is that at a time when people, quite rightly, want the freedom to choose, the coronation is all about being called from beyond oneself. I mean, as we're called to look after elderly relatives or children, it's a calling. And I think that the king takes that aspect of it extraordinarily seriously, and the heart of it all will be the anointing behind the screen.
Elizabeth Buchanan, you worked alongside him, you worked for him. In everything I read and hear, people talk about his terrific work rate, and he gives the impression of somebody who not only works very hard, but takes things very seriously. Is that fair? Is that a fair summation?
Without a shadow of a doubt, he's the hardest working man I've ever worked for. I worked for Lady Thatcher for a while,
right,
and 2 cabinet ministers, and he pretty much outdid all of them. It would start very early in the morning, and it would finish. He'd almost end the day falling asleep at his desk, because it would just be relentless all day long. And all he was trying to do, and this is the really critical thing, in everything he did, it was about trying to help other people. None of this was about getting elected, getting promoted, making money. All he was trying to do was make things better for people, for everybody in this country, and beyond these shores.
There's a very interesting debate that has sort of caught fire today, I have to say, Lord Charteris, which is to do with this idea of the people giving their allegiance and swearing their allegiance to the king. What do you make of it? What do you think of it? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea?
Well, essentially, a coronation is supposed to be something which establishes the values that we share as a community. I mean, that's one of the things about monarchy. It hallmarks and refers to things beyond political argy-bargy.
Yes.
So if people want to sign up to that, and this is a very free country, there's a lot of satire, there's a lot of criticism, but nevertheless, to be given an opportunity to identify with that is a really good thing.
Elizabeth, this thing you were just mentioning there of wanting to make a difference, this drive that the king has, the restrictions, of course, are greater when one is king, and very often you are representing the government and the country, and you toe the government line, and we saw the Queen do it very successfully over the decades. Knowing the man as you do, how do you think that'll sit with the king, not to be able to be openly passionate necessarily?
People shouldn't be surprised. He's known what was coming all his life. While he was Prince of Wales, he did everything he could as Prince of Wales to make a difference for the better, knowing full well that when the moment came when he would become king, he wouldn't be able to do those things anymore. And he said it so eloquently in that remarkable speech on that Friday when the Queen died. And he said, the baton now passes to others. He's very clear on that, and always has been, that that is what would happen. However, I'm absolutely confident that he will continue to find ways to make a difference through his extraordinary power to convene. We've seen it already. He's done it before COP27, he did it before the biodiversity. He's able to bring people together in a way that no one else is. And that will never stop, I am sure of it.
Thank you both for giving us your insights. Very interesting.
It's lovely to be here.
Thank you very much. Well, a day like tomorrow doesn't happen without the hard work of a lot of people. Let's hear from 3 more whose skill and commitment has given them a vital role at the heart of such an historic day.
The Royal School of Needlework Embroidery Studio is based here at Hampton Court Palace, and we're really excited and honoured to be involved with the coronation, working on the chairs for the ceremony. It's a really exciting opportunity for us to showcase our skills to the world. We are using very traditional methods that we've always used at the school. A lot of time goes into producing these pieces as they are done by hand, and it's a real masterpiece actually in stitch when you see it on completion.
I work at the Royal Mews as a coachman. On the coronation, I'll be part of a team of 4 riders pulling the Gold State coach with His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen from Westminster Abbey to Buckingham Palace. And I'm actually the first female rider to be in that team. A coronation for the Royal Mews team is really the pinnacle of what we do. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so it's really exciting, if not a little bit nerve-wracking.
So I'm from the Cayman Islands, Georgetown specifically. I'm part of the Cayman Islands Regiment, and I'll be taking part in the processions on Coronation Day. There's nearly 500 troops from the Commonwealth and the overseas territories marching tomorrow, along with 4,000 from the British Armed Forces. It was a privilege to be selected. Truly, I am honoured, and I think the Caymanians back home are just as proud of us, and they're really looking forward to the day.
There's been a lot of pinch me moments whilst we're doing what we're doing. It has been magical. To be a part of their day is a brilliant honour, and we're loving it.
We have 8 horses to pull the Gold State coach. It weighs 4 tonnes. They have their own will. That's where the training comes in. So we set them up to do the best job they can do on the day, and we react to what they give us.
So behind the scenes, there's been a lot of work going into it, handling all the logistics of having 35 different nations troops here. I think we're marching around 6 miles in total. It's British pageantry at its best, isn't it? It needs to be perfect.
Once the work is complete, we will all be celebrating together. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of fizz and a bit of cake along the way.
I started riding at the age of 9, 20 years ago. 9-year-old me would have been so excited to have the opportunity to do this.
Well, we are joined now by a royal guest who will be attending tomorrow's coronation, Queen Rania Al Abdullah of Jordan. Your Majesty, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time. There is nobody sitting in that congregation tomorrow who is going to understand more what Queen Camilla is undertaking, the scrutiny, being on the world stage. How would you describe the role of being Queen?
Well, you know, I think for all of us, the love and support of family members is so important. But when you're in a public role, it becomes indispensable, and that usually falls on the spouse. And so, you know, there's no job description for Queen Consort. But I think the late Prince Philip gave us a real-life roadmap of what it means to be the partner of a monarch, and at the same time, you know, stand behind them, support them, and represent your own country. Obviously, it's a very public role, which brings its challenges with it, but it also is an opportunity, it's a very rare opportunity to draw attention to issues that are critical, but that can go unnoticed. And I think it's a privilege and an honor and something to take very seriously. And Queen Camilla clearly feels the same, because she has used her platform to empower women, to support victims of gender-based violence, you know, giving them a real advocate inside in Buckingham Palace. And I think so. She's spent so much time building her relationship with the British public.
This is an interesting parallel between the two of you, because it is something of a signature of your queenship that you often have taken on causes that might have been potentially uncomfortable culturally, that you have talked a lot about the education of young girls and women. You also were there back in 2002, I think, when Camilla made her first public speech.
Yes.
And how was she before? I mean, a lot of water under the bridge now, more than 20 years ago. But at the time, did you give her some words of advice? Was it a shaky start?
Look, I mean, Queen Camilla is someone who is very sincere. She's very candid. You know, what you see is what you get. And I think these are the qualities that have served her so well over the years and have endeared her to the British public. And I think that empathy that she has, that sincerity, that genuine spirit that she has, I think will serve her very well as Queen. And so I don't think she needs my advice when it comes to that. You know, I think she knows exactly what she's doing, and she really has a very strong track record of using her platform to support important causes that are close to her and King Charles's heart.
In 2013, as part of a tour of the Middle East, they came to visit you in Jordan. Did they decide the sort of projects they wanted to see, or did you suggest them? And what was it they seemed most interested in as a couple?
Well, you know, King Charles we have a very deep respect for. You know, over the years I've come to know him as somebody who's very compassionate, very perceptive, very sincere. He's always great company, but he's at his best when he is talking to people and interacting with the initiatives and the causes that he really cares about. So he came to Jordan a year and a half ago on his first overseas trip post-pandemic. And he made a point of visiting the local chapter of his foundation and speaking to the beneficiaries, the refugees, and the local communities that benefited from the project. And it's always such a pleasure to see him interacting, and it's very touching because he has a way of disarming people. The conversation is always easy. There's no airs or pretenses. He asks people questions and he genuinely listens because he cares. And Queen Camilla is very much the same. She also is always eager to meet people, to speak to them, and to... She also visited a child and family center that deals with domestic violence. And
which is one of her chosen causes.
Which is one of her chosen causes.
Yeah.
And her empathetic spirit and her gentle approach really touched every single person that she spoke to that day and left a lasting impression with them.
In one of your visits to London, you went to visit, I think it was called the Mulberry School for Girls, and it's interesting that tomorrow we will see within the service in Westminster Abbey, within this Church of England service, with all its ancient associations, leaders from many faiths represented, and they're in the congregation. In terms of how that means that your own country and countries that surround it see our royal family and see Great Britain, do you think it has an international perception? Do you think people care beyond our borders about that representation?
I mean, I think absolutely, and I think this is a trademark of His Majesty's approach. He really wants his coronation to be very inclusive across ethnic minorities and religions and cultures, and I think this is something that he's always spoken of diversity as an aspirational value, and you see his respect for other cultures in his work, in his sincere support to projects, whether in Jordan or Afghanistan or other countries. So diversity is very much part and parcel of who he is and how he wants to approach his role. And internationally, I think people look at this occasion with a lot of admiration, and you know, you just have to see how many people will be tuned in tomorrow, hundreds of millions around the world, and all the people camped outside now for days. And that tells you a great deal about what this day means to not just to the British people, but to everyone in the world.
Queen Rania, thank you very much for taking the time to join us, and we wish you a very good day tomorrow. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Well, let's return to the Mall now, where people are already staking out the best spots on this. There they are already on the ceremonial route. That's extraordinary, and I understand some of those people have been there for a couple of days now. They look like they're having a bit of a party, a little bit of a dance there we saw, and literally now amassed in their hundreds. So that's around the Mall in London. They don't seem to be feeling the cold. There are some crowns there. Even a Union flag suit. How remarkable. And of course, as Queen Rania was saying there, huge interest from all around the world. And we know that there are, well, I've been told around about 6,000 accredited media for this weekend, which is a remarkable amount. And that's just outside the Abbey, in fact. We'll see the photographers, the cameras, they're all set up. They're ready for an early start from 22 countries on 6 different continents, which is a remarkable insight, really, And there we are, that's Admiralty Arch. That sits, if you're not familiar with London, that sits directly opposite, at the other end of the Mall, directly opposite Buckingham Palace. Happy and glorious, it says, and that's certainly the way London feels this evening. And there, of course, fluttering in the spring breeze is the Royal Standard. Well, now, on Sunday evening, the weekend celebrations reached their climax with the Coronation concert at Windsor Castle. Our final guest tonight is no less than a global music icon who will be taking to the stage to perform in front of the King and Queen and the rest of the royal family, not to mention 20,000 members of the public. Welcome, Lionel Richie.
That was the best quick change I ever saw.
That was nobody knew a thing. We did it silently.
That was a silent move.
A queen for an icon.
And you stayed so focused.
Yeah, focuses the mind. Live television, live television focuses the mind. So you have, of course, I mean, it's stating the obvious to say, you have played all around the world to thousands, probably millions of people. You are used to an audience. You are here for Sunday night's concert. I mean, put it in the sort of the pantheon of what you've done. How important is it?
Well, let me just say, every once in a while you get a chance to step into history. I mean, this is history. And so how many times as a kid did I ever watch the Queen's coronation? I mean, you can see these wonderful pageantries happening around the world, but never ever imagining you would ever be involved in. And then all of a sudden you get this wonderful invitation. I've known King Charles now for a while. And so when you get this kind of an opportunity, the answer is absolutely. And it will be like no other crowd I've ever had before, because this is going to be global. Not since probably the '84 Olympics has the entire world ever tuned in to something like this. And so I'm just excited to be a part of it.
We're very excited you're a part of that, I have to tell you. So tell me that you say that you have known the prince as he was, the king as he now is. How did you get to know each other?
Well, believe it or not, we had mutual friends at the beginning. And then I was asked years ago to do the Prince's Trust.
Right.
To do a concert. I was at Wembley Arena, and they said, would you... So I donated the proceeds to the Prince's Trust, not having any real background as to what the Prince's Trust was all about. And from that moment on, we've been kind of associated with of giving back. I'll tell you something interesting about, because I'm from Alabama.
Yeah.
He's from the royal family. I mean, the idea of the two of us being friends in any capacity other than just hello, how are you, seems unusual. But when we met, I found something about him. We have the same heart. He has an amazing heart, and he wants to give so much back. I'm the same way, you know. Believe it or not, we're the same age. So when we start thinking...
I actually don't believe that, but I'm going to check that later.
No, and I'll tell you a joke about that too, but we have a little joke between the two of us. But he always says to me, Lionel, how do you look the way you look? And I look the way I said, if you come to Hollywood, I can help you.
Well, I'm making a documentary about that if he does. That's all I'm saying.
That's our joke between the two of us. But the truth of the matter is he has a fabulous sense of humor. And when he gets onto a mission, when he really gets his heart set on this is what I want done, then he's off to the races. And once we met and I understood it's not just the pomp and circumstance, it's the man behind who all of this is about. And we have a mission, and that is we've helped over 1 million kids.
Yeah, this is the Prince's Trust, incredible.
The Prince's Trust I'm speaking of. And when he called and said, I want you to be the chairman of the board of the ambassadors for the Global Trust, would you take that on? And I said, absolutely. And so having the two of us together, you know, I know what his mission is, but we want to take it now to where we get double and triple the amount of kids we're helping.
I want to ask you about the perception of all of this in America, because, of course, it's a very big deal for us. We're very interested in it. It's our history. It's something that many people in Britain are very connected to and proud of. What is the perception? When you talk to people in America about being part of the Prince's Trust and that you know the King and that you're coming to the coronation, what do they say?
Well, first of all, I had to kind of show all my credentials to my friends back in America, because they go, come on. You know who, I've been going through that for most of my life. But they're very excited about this. now, if you get to the American press, they are excited about it. Now, the American public, you know, it's one of those things where the royal family is so far removed from middle America. But overall, the response of this changing of the guards, if you will, from the Queen's era to Prince Charles's era, and I keep trying to tell them that even just having, I was listening to the interview you just did with Her Majesty, and he is going to make a change. There's going to be a definite change in the way things are done with the royal family. He's going to be engaged.
Right.
And I'm loving the fact that in America, just by having me involved, I will tell you right now, we're going to keep no secrets at this point. Because I told him, if I'm going to be the mouthpiece, hang on to your seat. because we, you know, there's a certain amount of reserve that the royal family will deal with. Well, I'm from the other side of this coin. You know, I believe that they need to know about him and His Majesty, and they need to know about what his missions are about and his interests. And so if he will allow me, I will now spread the word.
I think he'll be delighted. Well, we are looking forward enormously, everybody here, to your set on Sunday, to everybody's set, but especially to your set. So thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us this evening.
Wouldn't miss it.
Real pleasure
Would
to
not
meet
miss
you.
it.
Thank you
a
very much, Lionel
true
Richie.
pleasure.
I hope then that has given you just a flavour of what is in store over the next 48 hours. Tradition and pageantry, for sure, military bands, golden coaches, Union flags, magnificent music, and a deep connection to rituals that date back over 1,000 years. But along with it, it seems, as we were hearing, the King is determined to be at the centre of a coronation that reflects the nation that he has come to know and understand so well in his decades of apprenticeship. As the ancient doors of Westminster Abbey open to welcome tomorrow's congregation, we will doubtless see faces from all corners of society, and likely some of them very well known indeed, entertainers, and royalty, prime ministers and presidents, but also significantly plenty others newly acknowledged as worthy of a place in the Abbey because of their service, their selfless service to the nation. Unknown fundraisers, veterans and campaigners, for the first time taking their place at the coronation as a part of the great and the good. And if you are, I don't know, currently rolling the pastry for your coronation quiche or putting a bottle of fizz in the fridge to celebrate tomorrow with friends, I hope you will join us for what promises to be a unique day when the United Kingdom pauses to watch history in the making. I'll be here bright and early at 7:30 sharp with the rest of the team to bring you, we hope, a coronation day to remember. Do join us.
God save the King!